Hey guys, here's your guys' math math practice test number 1 for week 10. So, gonna go over each one of these and do your guys' best to study. So, for the first one, you guys are gonna factor. So, something you guys can do is first you can factor out a 6 from each one first. So, factor out a 6. And we're gonna get k squared minus 4k minus 5. Then notice, you guys, the a value in front of that k squared is a is equal to 1. So this is where you guys do your x method to factor. Negative 5 up top, negative 4 on the bottom. Two things are multiplied on negative 5. One added gives you guys negative 4. That is negative 5 and 1. And since a is equal to 1, you guys, all you gotta do is use the two side numbers as your guys' factors. Drop down the 6, k minus 5 times k plus 1. So that's number 1. Number 2. Again, a is equals to 1, so this is another factoring using your x method. So negative 48 up top, negative 2 on the bottom. Two things that multiply to negative 48, but when you guys add it gives you negative 2, that's negative 8 and positive 6. Ooh, that's a bad 6. So, and since a is equal to 1, you guys just use your two side numbers as your factors. R minus 8 is one factor, R plus 6 is the other one. Okay. Number 3, okay, when you factor this, you can factor out a 5 from each term. So divide each of them by 5. 35 divided by 5, 7x squared. Negative 15 divided by 5, negative 3x. Negative 20 divided by 5, negative 4. Now, notice, your a value is greater than 1. So that means you guys need to do x method and grouping. So a times c up top, 7 times negative 4, negative 28. B on the bottom, which is negative 3. Two things that multiply to negative 28, but when add gives you guys negative 3, that's negative 7 and 4. But now you guys do your grouping. So it's the first term, the two middle terms, and the last term. So 7x squared minus the two middle terms, minus 7x plus 4x minus 4. Group. So from the first group, you guys can factor out a 7x to get x minus 1. From the second group, you guys can factor out a 4 from each one. So plus 4, 4x divided by 4, x, negative 4 divided by 4, negative 1. Both of these match, was a good thing, so our factors are 7x plus 4 and x minus 1. And you guys, please don't forget this 5 that we factored out from the very beginning. Okay. Number 4. Can't factor out anything, so now we just gotta factor. Everyone, that 2, this is a is greater than 1 case, which is another x method, and then grouping. A times c up top, so 2 times negative 24, negative 48. On the bottom, 13. Two numbers that multiply to negative 48, but when added gives you guys 13. That's 16 times negative 3. First term, two middle terms, and the last term. 2x squared plus 16x minus 3x minus 24. Group. So from the first group, you guys can factor out 2x from both to get x plus 8. And from the other group, you guys can factor out a negative 3 from both, x plus 8. So you guys are going to get 2x minus 3 times x plus 8. And those are your guys' factors. Number 5. Two terms, a minus sign in between, and these are perfect squares. So you guys can take the square root for both. What times what is 25b squared? That's 5b times 5b. What times what is 9? 3 times 3. And plus and minus. Number 6, something you should notice, you can divide both of them by 5. So factor out of 5. 20 divided by 5, you guys, is 4n. Now, if you don't know what's 120 divided by 5, you guys, 125 divided by 5. 5 goes into 12 2 times. 5 goes into 25 5 times. Now, in the parentheses, this is another difference of squares factoring. So, square root both. So you guys get what times what is 4n squared. 2n times 2n, what times what is 25, 5 times 5, plus and minus. And there's your guys' factors. Number 7. So this, you guys, is a sum and difference of cubes. This is cube rootable, meaning something times itself 3 times is those numbers. So here is this formula, you guys. So something you guys are just going to have to memorize. Now, the signs, you guys, you use soap. You guys use soap, which is same, opposite, always positive. Same sign, so plus. Opposite sign, minus, always positive. So same, opposite, always positive. So what times what times what is 125x to the third? That is 5x. What times what is 8? 2. So then you guys just plug in A into this formula, and you guys plug in B into this formula. A plus B is 5x plus 2. Here's your A, here's your B. A squared, that's 5x to the second, which is 25x squared. R minus AB, A times B, you guys, is 10x, so negative 10x. And what's our B value? What's B squared? 2 to the second power, which is just going to be 4. And there's your guys' factor. Number 8, I'm going to drag this one along with us, you guys. Okay, again, both of these are cube rootable, meaning there is something multiplied to itself 3 times that gives you guys both. So, what times what is 216x to the third? 6x. What times what is 1? 1. So, use this formula, right? Everywhere you guys see an A, it's 6x. Everywhere you guys see a B, it is a 1. So, 6x, A minus B is 6x minus 1. A squared, that's 6x to the second, which is 6x times itself, 6x squared, 36x squared. R, A times B, 6x times 1, just plus 6x. And B squared, you guys, that's 1 to the second power, which is just 1. Okay, so there's your guys' factoring portion. Now let's go to the next part. Simplifying. Okay, there's a minus sign in between this, you guys, so we gotta distribute this minus sign to both of these. Negative 3, drop the parentheses. Negative times negative 8, positive 8. Negative times negative 3, positive 3i. So all your guys' complex answers has to be in this form, a plus bi. This is standard form for complex numbers. Real numbers first, then imaginary second. So, negative 3 plus 8, that is 5. 7i plus 3i, that's 10i. So, 5 plus 10i. Over here, number 10. Right here, you guys, this is multiplication because it's parenthesis on parenthesis. So this is where you guys gotta do a double distribution. Negative 4 times 2, that's negative 8. Negative 4 times negative I plus 4i. 2i times 2 plus 4i. And 2i times negative I, you guys, that's negative 2i squared. But you guys should know I to the second power, that's just negative 1. So what's negative 2 times negative 1? That is plus 2. Rewriting everything. So our two real numbers is negative 8 and 2, so combine those first. That's negative 6. And our two imaginary numbers, 4i plus 4i, you guys, it's plus 8i. Negative 6 plus 8i. Okay, number 11. So, to multiply this, you guys gotta multiply top and bottom by the conjugate of the denominator. The conjugate is the opposite of this sign. 4 plus 10i, 4 plus 10i. And then you guys do a double distribution. Double distribute right there, and then the shortcut, you guys, is multiply the first two and multiply the last two. Okay. Alright, 10 times 4, you guys, that's 40. 10 times 10i, that's 100i. Change my colors. 3i times 4, you guys, that's 12i. And 3i times 10i, you guys, is 30i to the second power. Okay, purple times purple. 4 times 4, that's 16. And green times green, negative 10i times 10i, you guys, that's negative 100i squared. Now we gotta cancel these, right? I to the seconds, you guys, remember that's getting multiplied by negative 1 for both. So if we rewrite everything, 40 plus 100i plus 12i, 30 times negative 1, you guys, that's negative 30. All over 16, negative 100 times negative 1 is plus 100. Okay, combine like terms. Up top, 40 times negative 30, you guys, that's 10. 100i plus 12i, that's 112i. And on the bottom, 16 plus 100, 116. Now, something to notice. You guys can divide each one of these numbers by 2. So divide top and bottom by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Now, if you guys don't know how to do 112 divided by 2, well, there you go. 2 times 5 is 11. Oh, sorry, 2 times 5 is 10, so 11 minus 10 is 1. Drop down the 2. 2 times 6 will give you guys 12. So that's 5 plus 56i. Now, what's 116 divided by 2? 2 goes into 11 5 times, and 2 goes into 16 8 times. 458, and there you guys go. Okay, number 12. So, again, multiply top and bottom by the conjugate. Negative 3, opposite of that one, in the middle only, which is minus 10i. So we gotta do a double distribution. So like there, right here, and then the front number times the front number, and the back number times the other back number. Okay, so let's do this. 10 times negative 3, negative 30. 10 times negative 10i, negative 100i. Negative 2i times negative 3, you guys, that's positive 6i. And negative 2i times negative 10i, you guys, that's 20i to the second power. Okay, blue times blue, it's positive 9. Green times green, negative 100i to the second. And recall, you guys, both the I to the seconds become -1, right? So let's do this. Rewriting this, -30 minus 100i plus 6i. 20 times -1 is -20. And we got 9. -100 times -1, you guys, that's a positive 100. So combine the terms up top. -30 minus 20, that's -50. -100 plus 6i, you guys, that is -94i. All over 109. I think that's the answer, but I want to make sure. Yeah, -9. Yep, we got it right. -50 minus 94i all over 109. Okay, now we are solving each equation by factoring. So we factor, and when you guys solve, you better get your variable has to have an answer. So by the time you guys solve, you're solving for what your variable is equals to. You're trying to find a number, right? That's what it means to solve. The solution to your guys' variable. They'll make the whole equation equals to 0. So we got a factor. This, you guys, is a is equals to 1. So you guys do x method, and you guys just use the two sign numbers. The two numbers that multiply to -18, but when you guys add it's 3, that's 6 and -3. So b plus 6 times b minus 3 equals 0. So to solve for b, you guys, you have to set both of your factors equals to 0. -6 to both sides, b equals -6, plus 3 to both sides, b is equals to 3. Answer, -6, 3. 14. Again, this is solving by factoring. So this is a is equal to 1. So that means you guys are going to do your x method, find your factors, and then solve for x. -8 at the top, -7 at the bottom. The two numbers that multiply to -8, but when you guys add it to -7, that's -8 and 1. And since a is equal to 1, you guys just use the two sign numbers. X minus 8 times x plus 1, all of that's equal to 0. But we're not finished. These are only your factors. To solve, set both of your factors equals to 0. X equals -1. X is equals to 8. 8 and -1 are your guys' solutions. 15. Okay, your a value, you guys, for this one, a is greater than 1. So this is your guys' x method and then grouping. So 7 times 7 is 49. -50 on the bottom. The two numbers are -49 and -1. So now factor by grouping. These are the four terms you guys use, right? 7x squared minus 49x minus 1x, which is just minus x plus 7. From the first grouping, you guys can factor out a 7x to get x minus 7. From the second grouping, because there's a negative in the front, you gotta factor out a -1. So our factors are 7x minus 1, x minus 7, all is equal to 0. But again, those are only our factors. To solve, you guys set both of the factors equals to 0. Add 7 to both sides here, x equals 7, plus 1 to both sides, and then divide both sides by 7. X is equal to 1/7. So our solutions here are 1/7 and 7. Okay. 16. Can't factor out anything from here, so your guys' a value is greater than 1. So again, this is your x method along with grouping. 5 times -2 is -10, 9 on the bottom. The two factors are 10 times -1. And since a is greater than 1, you guys gotta do grouping. First term, two middle terms, and the last term, right? 5n squared plus 10n minus 1n minus 2. Group. From the first group, you guys factor out a 5n to get n plus 2. From the second group, because there's a negative in the front, you gotta factor out a negative 1 from both of them. 5n minus 1 times n plus 2 all equals to 0. And again, since we're solving, you have to figure out what n is equals to both of them. So set both the factors equals to 0. Add 1 to both sides. We're solving for n. Divide both sides by 5. N equals 1/5. Over here, subtract 2 to both sides. N is equal to negative 2. 1/5 and negative 2. Okay. 7 and 18. This requires you guys to solve for x or your variable using the quadratic formula. So, I'm trying to figure out this pen. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, quadratic formula, guys, is x equals negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You have to remember that formula. You guys have to remember that formula right there. Okay. Quadratic, you guys, you always have to set your equation equals to 0, and it has to look like this form. So, we subtract 5k to both sides. Now notice, you guys, this goes in descending order with the exponents of the variables, right? So this 5k, it can't combine with either of these two because they're not like terms. So it's this one in the middle. So k to the second minus 5k minus 13 is all equal to 0. A is equals 1, b equals negative 5, c is equal to negative 13. X equals, follow the formula, negative of b is negative 5 plus or minus b squared, which is negative 5 to the second, minus 4 times your guys' a, which is 1, times your guys' c, which is negative 13, all over 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. I literally plugged in all the b's, a's, and c's into this formula right here. Negative of negative 5 is positive 5, plus or minus negative 5 squared is 25. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 13, you guys, that's a positive. 13 times 4, you guys, 12. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1, 52. All over 2. 5 plus or minus rad 77 all over 2. Now, you gotta simplify to see if you guys can simplify this 77. But you guys get pairs, you guys get leftovers, no pairs, right? So this is as simplified as it gets. So that is your guys' answer. 18. Again, you guys have to get it so that the equation is equal to 0. So we got to add 5 to both sides. But when you guys add 5, it can't combine with the 4x squared nor the 4x. So you guys just slot it in for, it's the c value, right? And now quadratic formula. A equals 4, b equals 4, c equals 5, and plug them all in into this quadratic formula here. Again, you have to memorize this. You gotta memorize that. X equals negative b, which is negative 4, plus or minus b squared, which is 4 to the second power, minus 4 times a, which is 4, times c, which is 5. All over 2 times a, which is 2 times 4. Negative 4 plus or minus 4 squared, you guys, is 16. Negative 4 times 4 is negative 16. Negative 16 times 5. 6 times 5 is 30. 5 times 1 is 5. Plus the 3 is 80. Minus 80. All over 2 times 4, which is 8. Negative 4 plus or minus 16 minus 80, you guys, is negative 64 all over 8. Now, there's that negative sign inside the square root, so we're going to make that positive and put the I on the outside. Now, you guys got to simplify square root 64. Now, the square root of 64, that is a perfect square, you guys, but if you guys forget that 64 is a perfect square, you can still do your tree and recognize you guys are going to have 3 pairs with no leftovers. If there's no leftovers, that means you do not have a square root. So 1 pair of 2's times the other pairs of 2's times the other pairs of 2's, which is 8. Which makes sense because the square root of 64, you guys, is 8 times 8. So here we got -4 plus or minus 8i all over 8. And you guys can divide each one of these, top and bottom, by 4. -1 plus or minus 2i all over 2. And that's your guys' answer. And lastly, for the graphs. Now for the graphs, you guys, you could figure out key terms. Since a is positive, right? Since that's positive, you know your graph's going to open up. And since it's a standard form, you know the y-intercept is automatically 0, 9, knowing that. So if you guys want to find your guys' axis of symmetry, it's x equals -b over 2a, which is -8 over 2 times 2, -8 over 4, which is -2. To find the y-coordinate of your vertex, just plug in -2 into the original equation. So everywhere you guys see an x, it now becomes a -2. -2 squared is 4. 8 times -2 is -16 plus 9. 8 minus 16 plus 9, and that's 1. So your guys' vertex is -2, 1. -2, 1, 0, 9, and then your graph is going to look something like that. Opens up, right? 20. So since it's negative a value, right, that means it's going to open down. Your guys' y-intercept is 0, -4. Okay, axis of symmetry, right? Negative of b is -8 times 2 times your a value, 2 times -2. 8 over -4, which is -2. Now again, to find your y-coordinate of your vertex, plug in -2 into the original equation. -2 squared, you guys, is +4. -8 times -2 is +16 minus 4. -2 times 4 is -8 plus 16 minus 4, which is 4. So -2, 4 is your guys' vertex. So -2, 4. You know your y-intercept 0, -4, and you guys know it opens down. So it's going to look something like that. Okay. 21 and 22. This is vertex form, you guys. This is vertex form. The above ones, you guys, these are standard form. So, vertex form. Your guys' vertex is the opposite of this and the same for that. So your guys' vertex is 2, -3. Since a is positive, you guys know this opens up. Now to find your guys' y-intercept, again, you guys gotta set x equals to 0. So everywhere you guys see an x, it now becomes a 0, and you guys just simplify. 0 minus 2 is -2 squared minus 3. -2 squared, you guys, is +4 minus 3. 2 times 4 is 8 minus 3, 5. 0, 5 is your guys' y-intercept. 2, -3 is your guys' vertex, and your thing is going to look something like that. 22, again, opposite and the same, right? That's your guys' vertex. So -3 and 4. Since this is a value is negative, that means it's going to open down. So now be good to find your guys' y-intercept. So set x equals to 0. Everywhere you see an x, it now becomes a 0. And you guys solve. -2 times 3 squared plus 4. 3 squared is 9 plus 4. -2 times 9 is -18 plus 4, which is -14. Ooh, that is very much so off the grid. So 0, -14, you know, that's very much so down here. And then vertex, -3, 4. So definitely graph gonna look something like that. Okay, so that's your guys' practice test. Just practice and study, right? Just practice and study and you guys should be okay. Good luck, everybody. Peace.